Yes, we started Cornerstone in 2017. You guys heard some of my story. May 24th, 2017, grew it to 1 mil, 2 mil, 5 mil, 15, and then this year we just crossed over 15 in sales, so we think we'll hit 20 to 25. That's with Greenville Market, a Little Rock Market. We've just launched a franchise program with roofing.com. We're actually not even live yet. It's January 1st. So we've been kind of keeping that low key. We've got a bunch of our revolt members that are flipping from privately owned to the roofing.com model. So really excited about that. We sold that company in early 2021 for $48 million, and then did a buyback for about 75% of what we sold it for, and continue to grow the company now and rolling Cornerstone into the franchise is kind of why we were willing to do that with them, is because we needed a good affiliate model for the franchise, so we were willing to take Cornerstone back because of that.
Okay, so I'm Dustan Biegler with Apple Roofing. We're hoping to, I think we're going to break 100 million this year in sales. You know, I'm probably not well, I know for a fact I'm not the smartest guy on this panel, if that's Adam saying. But at any rate, you know, because I'm maybe not the smartest guy, I've probably had to simplify things, right? I mean, you just talked about what should I do tomorrow. I think we all go through that. And, you know, you can come to any event like this, right? And you get so many ideas and so many things, and you're like, oh God, where do I start, right? And I think you have to narrow down, like, what's the one thing you can do that's the most impactful for where you are right now. And, you know, for me, and I think for probably anybody in this room, the most impactful thing you can probably do is focus on your team. That's a lot of what I'm going to talk about after this, is how important your team is to your success. So if you focus on them and make sure that they're successful, you're gonna accomplish your goals. So I mean, even when you talk about a partnership, you know, everything I've done is always a partnership. I think we're in a partnership with everybody. Every employee we have come into our company is a partner in a way, because guess what? They're trusting us with their career, their time, right? Wherever a person goes, right, and the experiences that they get while they're there affects the rest of their life, right? What do they learn while they're with you? Even if they don't stay and they find a better opportunity than what maybe you're providing today, what do they take away that's valuable? So when somebody comes into our company, or any of our companies, right, they're giving us a lot, and we need to respect that and pour into them, right? In the same way that they've given us their career, their time, their financial future. So.
Thank you. My name's Adam Sand. I own 49% of Roof Company Canada. That's not really the thing. I spend an hour a week on it. When it comes to partnerships, I actually got a lot of that from Dustan. He coached me through a hard time with my partner, so I understand what you're going through. He said the smartest guy thing. I mean, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. I try and find places where I can shove myself.
Wrong room, buddy.
I try and find places where I can put myself where I feel dumb, right? And I try and solve really big problems, and I like to use technology as a vessel to do that. There's a lot of places where I am a complete chimpanzee, when I'm not smart. There's just a few places where I can look smart, but I do try and tackle big problems. And because I'm getting blessed with the opportunity to tackle those, solve those, I feel like I get a good perspective on like what people are investing in today, so that you're going to see what's out there in 2 years, because I'm getting tasked with making it. I think that it gives me a bit of an insight that I hope can bring value to the people in the room.
Benny Fisher. I own the Big Fish Contracting Company, and it's because my last name's Fisher and I'm not a small guy. I made a really cool cartoon. This is like 7 years ago. I was a retail contractor, started from scratch, knocked on a couple doors, and ran some ads, and then just kept doing that. And we'll probably try to hit $10 million in revenue this year. I recently sold 25% of the company to a new business partner. I never had a partner before, but I knew I couldn't run the business by myself anymore, and I needed somebody with a smart guy like him to help me. So he invested 25%, and then I just recently sold 5% to my top salesman. He wanted to invest, and then I sold another 1% to one of my first salesmen who's still with me, and another 5% to my subcontractor, Caesar, who's been with me for 7 years. He wanted to invest, so I only own 64%. I get to be here with you guys, and someone's running the company, and I just love people, and that's kind of why we're successful. Is just we love people, we love our customers, we love our community, and we care.
Awesome. So I know that we're gonna get to some of these topics that you guys talked about. I have a couple things I want to cover here. What I see is interesting, very, very interesting on this panel. We're talking a little bit about roll-ups and franchising. And one to be a part of, potentially, and also, I know it's hard, but how can people compete in that environment when you got bigger companies coming at you? And I know it's hard, but I think you guys are generous and you're willing to share with smaller companies. So, yeah, roll-ups and franchising. How can we be part of it? How can we compete in this market?
Yeah, so I think that no matter what market you're in, no matter what year it is, 100 years from now, there's always going to be a customer base that want the small local guy, and that's completely fine. Like, there's plenty of contractors out there that want to stay at $2-3 million a year, be highly profitable, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's going to be plenty of work out there for you. There's people like Dustin that are going to roll up a bunch of companies and hit $1 billion in a few years, and that's great too. They're going to make a difference, and they're going to reach a lot of markets. You know, our goal with roofing.com was to be in at minimum 200 markets within the next 3 to 5 years, and to do $1 billion as well. And with the branding, the credibility, those things matter. And I think the shared leverage is what's important about the roll up and having PE firms come in and willing to do that. Like, there's a reason that so many are coming into the industry now. Like, I get calls every single month from PE firms want to leverage our network and get me to send them deals, and they'll give me points on the deal. Like, it's getting serious. People are super interested in the space. They've done it in all these other spaces, HVAC, plumbing, pest control, and now it's time for the roofing game to take part of that. And so I think what's most important is deciding what you want out of life, what you want out of business. What do you want for yourself? Do you want your company as a legacy business that you pass on to your kids? Do you just want it to stay, whatever your last name is, roofing? Is that important to you? If not, maybe it does make sense to be part of one of those things. But I've learned from experience, make sure as the seller, you do as much due diligence on them as they do on you. Make sure you take your time, you dig in, you confirm they're in alignment with your values, your character, and that they're striving for the same thing you are and aren't just money driven.
I think that's really, really good advice. Frankly, though, I do think that, of course, as you look at consolidation in the market, if you look at the other industries that it happened in, it probably kind of tells you what it might feel like in our industry when, as it happens. I think, frankly, today, the barrier to entry is pretty low, right? Anybody can start a roofing company, and it's pretty simple today. And I think that'll continue for a while, right? But as consolidation happens, I do think the barrier to entry will probably, become a little more difficult. That's honest, because there's, frankly, the data that we have to run our business on today, all the platforms, no offense, but most of them suck, right? And our industry needs investment, to come out with some of the right products and the right things. And, as I think about consolidation, it's not that you have a disadvantage if you're not wanting to go down that path. I think that if you take part in a lot of community activities and things like that, that's like a huge edge for you that I think is a danger for some of these consolidations, right? If they don't continue to focus on the community stuff individually, that that's a weak spot for them, right? So I would encourage you to stay super involved in your community, because relationships will always be more important than anything. But when you think about consolidation or what have you, I think about it more like a partnership, right? I'm not thinking about this as like an exit. It's not an exit for me. It's not an exit for any of the partners that we've partnered with, right? We're just getting a bigger team. That's what we're doing. And it's the same as, when we are partners with our employees or whatever, right? We're just building a bigger, better team. So I wouldn't necessarily like have a fear about it. To me, there hasn't been a good avenue in the past for companies like roofing companies to exit their company when they turn 70 years old. Usually they sell their truck and their gutter machine or whatever they have, and they get what's left to retire on, and that sucks, right? Like, this is actually a good thing for the people. At some point you do have to think about, how am I going to retire or whatever, and to get something for your company when that time comes is a good thing. And you don't have to wait till that time. You can participate in a lot of upside with a bigger team too. So there's a lot of different ways you can think about it, but I wouldn't necessarily view it as a threat. I think because of this, there's going to be more consistency, more predictability with our roof, the space. Right now, you have carriers doing all sorts of different things. You have roofers doing all sorts of different things, right? And it's kind of a little Wild West. And it'll be nice, I think, that we end up getting a little bit of predictability and some of the right tools.
And I'm just gonna throw out here, like, feel free to weigh in on this topic, and then also as you guys go down, like, competing as a I know, Benny, you're a dominant regional player, like how you're thinking about this as the next few years go on. And I know that you have thoughts about the next 10 years. No, Adam, start.
Wasn't sure if that was like him trying to make. Last time he took the microphone away from me because I got dark. But
don't worry, I got a 10-second rule. If he goes too negative, I'm going to grab the mic. Okay.
But it's not to be negative. It's just to be self-aware, right? To really be self-aware as to what you got into this industry for. A lot of people end up in roofing. A lot of people stumble into roofing. Some people came here. You hear a lot of people come here when 2008 happened. I lost my ability to do that other thing, and then I heard about a guy that was making money selling insurance stuff, and that's right up. You're going to see loan officers come into this industry real quick because new loan refis are down 95%, and mortgage applications are down 52%. Like, there's going to be great people acquisitions on the table for people who are coming out of that industry, and so it's really going to be just getting really self-aware, right? Understanding what you really got into this industry to do, because there's some really great opportunities to accelerate your personal goals. Now, sure, that might mean that there isn't a necessity for 75 roofing companies in every market, and most of them are just last name roofing with one guy and two crews and just a squirrel trying to make a nut, and it's a battle every day. Like you said, you're afraid taking on partnerships because trying to figure out how to market. Some of these opportunities have taken away a lot of the barriers, or you're allowed to skip the line on a few things. And then the other opportunities out there are allowing you to, put yourself on a pathway to have an exit maybe from your company, or the ability to decrease your workload in 5-10 years and be a part of something big. These opportunities in many cases are looking for great people. Right? And sometimes I meet with a lot of roofers over the last 5 years, and some of them really love marketing, or really love the sales end, or really like the branding, or love getting on camera, or really they're really passionate about the production side of things, and then they just have to do all this other part of their business that they don't like until they make enough money that they can hire somebody to do the things they don't like, because they got to try and be impact over income, and they got to be great leaders, and they got to have systems and processes, and buy these 9 courses, and they got a collection of them on the wall that they've half implemented, all to just try and get there. And sometimes you might just be a really great senior leader and have a chance to be on a ground floor opportunity with some of those. Now, if you're not those things, if you are absolutely determined to fight me on it and say, nope, I'm going to be one of the big guys, and you might. If somebody told Hunter 5 years ago he wasn't going to be what he is, he wouldn't have listened to a guy like me flapping my gums about it. If you're that guy, then you have to be really self-aware and you have to understand the work it's going to take, because like Dustin said, the barrier to entry is going to get steeper, and you have to be prepared to do the work. It's not going to be easy. A lot of people get into business because they think that it's going to somehow give a pathway to just kicking their feet up while everybody else does the work, and that isn't the case, right? There's always a linchpin. There's always something to do. You have to be willing to do the work and be there for your people.
So for us smaller roofers out there, I think that if you're really committed to building a company because you have that dream and that vision, that's awesome. I think what happens is as you level up through, being a $1 million contractor with only maybe a couple people, to a $10 million contractor with like 30 people, to a $100 million contractor with probably 200 people, life changes through those things. And when I first started, I wanted to be the man, because I was the one selling all the jobs and it was my brand on the side of the truck. And as I started getting more people in my organization, I realized it was a lot less about me and a lot more about them. And I started peeling my face off the trucks, right? And just left the fish up for a while. And now nobody even knows who I am. Like you guys may, but like the customers don't have any clue who Ben Fisher is anymore. And that actually feels pretty good. Because at the end of the day, we're leaving, it's about the organization. And I think, and I'm friends, I won't say friends. I have good relationships with every roofing company in the Pittsburgh metro area. And there's probably 30 good ones, okay? And every single one of those people I would do anything for, and they would do anything for me, I think. Haven't had to cash in too many favors yet, but when you can do that and you can provide value to other companies that are trying to come up to at the same time, eventually there's going to be opportunities where somebody's going to get tired. Like, it's hard being a leader. I mean, it's like you got to really, especially be in the trenches on a day-to-day basis. That's, as I've kind of learned things, I realized that that's not my best skill anymore, is actually being in the trenches, because like I'm too crazy and too hard. So I've partnered with other people. I've got other relationships. There's other good, successful roofing companies in my area. We just acquired a gutter company that was actually working for us. He was working for us every day, and eventually I got tired. I'm like, can we just buy your stuff? You just come work for us? And then we did that. And I'm talking to another roofing company where we might do that with them, because he's struggling to do all the websites and the branding, because this stuff gets expensive. And it's hard, and it was hard for me. And we might partner together, right? We might try to help each other out. And if enough of us do that in an area, I'm not going to let anybody come into Pittsburgh and take what we got, because I'm competitive. And maybe if they do, and they got good core values and they got a really good system, and maybe I talk with my other roofing buddies in Pittsburgh and maybe we make a deal happen. But it's got to be, as long as people are getting taken care of, and your people then take care of the customers, I think you can never lose, no matter what you decide to do. Whether you go work for someone else, you stay the man, you got a bunch of people that come, into your business. I think you just got to always do what's right and not let yourself get in the way.
I'm going to break into another topic that I think is relevant to everyone in this room real quick here. We're going to talk about recession and the economy in the next couple of years. Are we in a recession?
Is that a clickbait
word? Recession, yeah! I wanted to always do that at the end of the last recession. I wanted to say it's over, or now, and it's 2013. There's now, because there wasn't an official announcement. I wanted to say it's done. We're on. Okay. So for you guys, recession could, whatever it happens to mean right now, it could mean opportunity. It could mean drawbacks. I'm curious of what your take is on how the roofers in the room can deal with it and maybe look at it differently, or whatever you have as far as an opportunity during this time.
Yeah, so I mentioned when I was speaking the year COVID, kind of looking at that as an opportunity for myself to live through it, grow through it, figure it out, because I had heard so many horror stories of 08. So there's really no difference for me now. And I don't know that there is for most guys that live with a positive attitude. You just kind of work through it, try to figure it out, adjust to the market. It's an ever-changing game. It's not like we get to set up our business in year one and it stays the same. for the next 20 years. This guy can tell you, I can tell you, I've only been doing it 5 years. He's been doing it like 15 or something in a huge company. You go through different seasons of business. Like your CRM is going to break. You got to fix it. You got to get a new one because you've outgrown it. The systems that are in there aren't good enough. Like you're just always going to have stuff that is breaking, and you got to fix it. You got to improve it. It's got to grow with you. And then the same things with people. Your processes for people and what they're doing, how they're acting, how you're hiring. And so, for me, I don't know so much that it's recession based. It's just different seasons of business and adjusting to that.
Yeah. So I guess when I think about how if we go or are in a recession, right? How does that affect our industry? I'd probably look at your mix of business. If you're doing a ton of new construction, you'll probably get impacted pretty heavily, right? So you might, now if you're doing insurance-based work, you're probably not going to be as affected, right? Because that's a little bit more recession-proof. The weather doesn't give a shit, right? And so, that might be one thing to look at. But I think above all, there's always room for a good company in a market. If you're, Adam said yesterday something like the invisible hand of capitalism will bless you or whatever. I can't, right? Like, I love that. I wrote it down. I was like, I'm a big fan of like people vote with their dollar, right? And so if you're getting the votes, that's kind of how to keep the score, right? And just because there's a recession doesn't mean you have to participate, right? I ain't participate in a recession. And so you don't have to either. And, when I look at the biggest struggle that we've had in the last, year or two, it's been recruiting. Finding the right people to have on the team, right? If we need more salespeople or whatever, it's been super tough. Like we used to post for a job for a receptionist and we'd have like 80 applicants and now we have 2, right? And now you're like taking your pick out of like, 2 and maybe
if they show up for the interview.
Right, if they show up. Right. And so to me, a recession might be an opportunity to grab a lot of really talented people that are looking for a new opportunity. So who cares what the economy does? Pivot, do your thing. There's always room for a good company.
I got a writer down from Dustan Biegler. I can die now. No, I love that answer. And life is really just entropy and chaos, right? It's just challenges and growth. And in business, I'm gonna totally rip off Simon Sinek right now, hopefully to your benefit, but I'm probably gonna butcher it. But he talks about how business is more of an infinite game. We quite often use a lot of sports analogies in business about winning, about crushing it, about being champions, dominating. But a game has a defined set of rules, a defined number of players, a defined beginning and end, a way to award points. And business is very different than that. You can have new players enter the market. You can have consolidation of players. The game continues to go on until you quit. Basically, there is no defined endpoint. There isn't even a clear set of rules. The government can come in and change the rules. We're going to see some stuff changing here. I don't assume if they're going to hire 87,000 IRS guys and give them guns. I'm pretty sure some stuff's going to change. I see that this industry is the best place to be if you're going to be in a recession, as long as you know how to, like they said, pivot, because there's a lot of other places that get hit way harder. And sure, that might impact our customers, but looking at things like as people have less money, how can you use stuff like this retail model that we're talking about to finance people's insurance claim, let them keep the money so that they can use that for other things that are harder to finance. Then what happens if you get a really smart loan officer who can also find a way to build solar and tax credits into the deal, and now this customer's got $60,000 in cash and some tax credits, and they've got financing bringing in that's lower than the power bill used to be. If they get creative like that, if you can bring some smart people in, you can elevate in a way and actually use a recession as an opportunity. This is a great industry to be in a recession because at least we know that people are going to have to do this. Like bathroom remodels, that sucks, right? But this is a great place to be as long as you keep focused on learning and understanding how to read. Going back to a sports analogy, read the field, right? And if you do all that, I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah, I don't really like to say the R word because because I think it's a state of mind. And I think that you have to create your own economy, and you have to create your own circle and sphere of influence around you. And you have to live and breathe that into your people. And then your people can breathe that into the customers. Because at the end of the day, as long as you lead with service, like service is so valuable, because eventually the people who provide the best service will get paid in any market, like regardless of market conditions. So if you always think about the service part, and then you always, you know, come up with obviously tools, right? You can't just, you gotta be able to offer financing to your clients, right? You have to be able to do some things, you know, make it easier to shop online, right? Like you're gonna have to adapt a little bit, but as of right now, I mean, I look at my numbers every month; they just keep going up. So I don't, you know, I think it's a weird word.
I like it. So the next thought or category that I want to get you guys weigh in on is technology. So things like, let's say, remote drone inspections or e-commerce and roofing. I know that we've had some of the people from Roofle here who is now offering it to put it on sites to basically be able to purchase a roof on your website. I'm curious about, for you guys, that versus this current high-touch model. We've got people going out to do in-person inspections and a lot of high-touch stuff in roofing. So where are you at? How soon or does that model get transplanted by e-commerce and roofing and more remote selling? And I'm going to just start on the other side for the sake of switching it up.
Good, because I'm kind of one of these weirdos that love both. Because I think there's nothing better than old-fashioned customer service. Like, I really don't. I don't care. I mean, people are going to need people. As soon as that piece of technology breaks, or somebody doesn't have a signal, or, you know, the roofs aren't going to go on by themselves anytime soon. I don't care what Adam says. Okay? I don't care if Elon goes to Mars and brings back aliens to put the roofs on. I don't think we're going to see that in our lifetime. So as long as you got humans on the roofs, there's going to be lots of problems. And where there's problems, you're going to need people. Because the automation isn't going to solve the problem. It's going to make us more efficient, and we're going to be able to do more because there's going to be less people that want to work. I totally agree with that. But you're still going to have good customer service. You have to have good customer service on the phones or by remote. So either way, you got to get really good at it in person. So then that way you can be better on a Zoom call or on the phone, because I don't know what they say, but, you know, body language and tonality are most of the conversation. Well, if they're only hearing words and text, you know, you can improve that with humans, right? A little bit, but you got to do both. It's kind of a hybrid, I think. I think you can't walk away from it. You have to, you know, be doing the basics like using a CRM and having some stuff hooked up to a website, automated follow-ups, you know, things like that. But I don't think it's gonna. Drones aren't going to be putting on roofs anytime soon, but drone inspections can happen remote, and then you can do remote Zoom calls. But you can't put your hand underneath that roof to see if like anything's happening, right?
You're going to see a hybrid model. You're going to see a lot of things come into the market that are going to change how we do business for sure. And you know, Roofle's got a pretty cool product. Roofhawk, sorry, it's got a pretty cool product. And you know, we have a client that, you know, he's doing about $10 million a year, and he wants to see if it'll work. And he told me if I mention his name, he'll kill me and fire me. But he's starting a whole separate company just to try this, like just to try completely like using an automated follow-up tool, Sumo Quote, connect to a website, Eagle View, like no human being involved other than like maybe a person at desk, like one person, and he thinks another guy in the industry has sold $2 million doing it that way, and so he wants to try it too. So you're seeing a lot of experimentation, right? And that experimentation, he doesn't want to say anything because he doesn't want to feel like he started this other thing that's going to steal a deal at a lower price from one of his own salespeople, right? So he wants to completely keep it isolated, different company, different place, different name, different everything. He doesn't want to work at that company. He still wants to go to his office every day. He just wants to build it and see what happens. So you're seeing a lot of investment and experimentation to see what will stick and what will be the right way. And Benny's not wrong. You're still going to have people. Like, it's never just going to be this robotic industry. I mean, you're just going to see new ways that customers can engage with you and more transparency in pricing, and trying to create some economies of scale to improve the efficiency. Because the Better Business Bureau, you know, 11% of all their complaints, by representing hundreds of industries, we take a way disproportionate size of complaints, and it's because the barrier to entry is so low. And so they need to find ways to, optimize, automate, and create some efficiency in this business model with regards to communication, mainly just because customers don't know how to choose a roofer, so they need to be kind of constantly followed up with. Like, it's not an easy buying process. There's a lack of education on the consumer behalf, and add insurance into it gets even more confusing. So I think that you're going to see some things change, but you're still going to have people. It's never going to be, I don't believe it'll be like Amazon where you order a roof and then some guy shows up to do it. It's going to be a hybrid.
Yeah, what happens when they pee in the back there?
I can't remember the little kids cartoon I watched, but there was a little, I might called Robots. I don't know, maybe one of you guys know, but there was like a guy or a little robot in it that said, "See a need, fill a need." And I've always kind of gravitated towards that, like see a need, fill a need. And I think when we look at the roofing industry, there's a ton of holes in the system. There's a ton. If you would have asked somebody, however many years ago, would McDonald's ever need, to be all automated? They'd say, no way, it's impossible, right? Well, it's probably going to happen, right? And I think it's the, availability to labor gets more and more difficult, then somebody's going to say, hey, you know what, this is a big problem, we're going to solve it. I probably would venture to say that maybe someday there is I don't know, we can 3D print. Why can't they 3D do a roof, right? Maybe it does. I don't know, right? Could happen. But if you look at the auto industry, do you think dealerships are going to be around in 20 years? I don't think we need them. Maybe to service, maybe service centers, right? So do I think the roofing industry is going to pivot there somehow? Absolutely. Do I know what it is? No, I'm not going to be the guy that solves that. But man, I got ADD. I'm sorry. What are we talking about?
The real quick, me too. The real question is kind of like,
I think we all do up here, just full disclosure.
It's the question is a little bit around is like, do people make a purchase decision without talking to a roofing salesperson in the future?
Oh, yes.
That is a little bit of the question.
So I've even started to see, and I don't know how many people are trying to Uberize the roofing industry, right? Insurance companies are starting to push this model where you click, you get 3 quotes, or it's a race to the bottom, right? Like if you're the cheapest quote, that's what they pay, whatever, right? And there's all these different models coming out, like Joe Hoffman's deal. All the absolutely technology is going to be a big part of roofing. Even if you look at the way insurance companies are operating, less and less of them are utilizing their own people, right? The adjusters aren't making any decisions anymore out in the field. They're gathering data. Everything is data. And that data is flowing somewhere, and then a decision's getting made. It might be made by a human today. There may be a day that the human interaction doesn't happen on 90% of the claims. Maybe they come in at 10%. I don't know, right? But everything is data. This can be very automated, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it is going there.
Yeah, because like I think about people purchase, because I think about conversion rate on websites, and I'm thinking about like if there's a tool to make this happen, and you funnel the same amount of ads to that, does it convert the same level? And like, or is it too high of a purchase?
I think it's very easy to buy online. I think what's going to happen though, when you go to deliver and there's mistakes in the field, you're going to wish you had some rapport and like actually had a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Because if they just go click, and then Hector goes out and does something wrong at their house, then all of a sudden, what are they going to do? Click here?
You can apply the 5% savings to instantly just making sure that nothing does go wrong on site, and when it does, there's a person on site that has to report the customer. But
it's kind of interesting.
I'm just saying, it's
the new buyer.
I think it's on the front side
than the old buyer too. I want to buy online. If I go buy a vehicle, I do not want to go to a dealership and they're going to run you around the ringer for 6 hours, and we all know it, right? Like, why can't I just click? Why not? Yeah.
And there's
I
the
know what I
guarantee
want.
of brand a little bit around vehicles, whereas there's a little less of that now for roofing.
Well, but the reality is just when you go buy a Ford, you know if you buy it at this dealership or this dealership, it's the same truck, right?
Yeah.
If roofing does go to a situation, right, where you know, it's getting printed on or whatever, right? It's a manufacturer, like, why do they need us anymore? Kind of thing, right? Could that happen? Absolutely.
Well, what happens to the world where people say people buy from people? What happens then?
Well, I don't.
That's just not true anymore.
I think that's still true, but just because you're people doesn't mean you can't be a virtual, right? I mean, Hunter's a great guy at like videos and things, right? Does that work for you, right? But are you still a person in a video, right? Like, I don't know. I think there's different ways to view it, but it's just my opinion, right? I'm probably wrong, but.
I think there's 100% there has to be, you have to do both.
Yeah.
I think right now you use the technology as the little pieces of automation that are doing quick follow-ups. They're getting you your satellite images quicker. They're doing all these things that they're kind of behind the scenes things that the customer doesn't even know what's happening. But you can automate those things. But you still have to go to the house because I think in the customer's mind they want to see that if this person's about to tear a roof off my house, I want to see what kind of work you're putting in ahead of time to show me that this thing's a big deal. And so like you're getting up there and measuring, you're possibly checking into my attic, you're looking at my ventilation, you're looking, stuff like that, because and you can't do that with automation. I've had satellite images done where on a couple of massive solar projects where the engineers don't see the pipes, they don't see all these obstructions on the roofs, and then I have to do a build up, where they have to redesign the whole thing because of all these things they didn't see, and the project manager just didn't want to go and look at it, and that's all it takes. It takes a human. I think you have to do both.
Well, we're going to do a little crowd participation. I'm going to bring the mic up to you guys here in a second too. So, did you want to say something here?
I was going to add to that. I think that what you're saying is spot on. Yes, we still need to be on.
I know, right?
You still need to verify accessories and whatnot. That being said, for you to get your foot up on the roof, you've got to get in front of that customer. And I think that the days of knocking on the door and building that trust are going away. Not right away, but soon with all this automation. Right. So having an online verification, getting in front of most people, you're still going to have to, you can order a roof, all the roof measurements from your office. You can verify all the things. You can build that estimate, but you are still going to have to go on the roof before you tear it off. Like, absolutely. That being said, I mean, TJ, how many roofs are you selling? Well, not you selling, but
thousands of people reach out across the world right now to me whenever I'm creating video content. They just want to buy from me just because they trust me, they're watching me on video, and they don't need me to come out to their house. I sold a roof for Crystal Waterson's company in Louisville, Kentucky the other day. I'd never even been to the people's house yet, and they signed a contract with her the first day just because I was involved. So it's more so of what people are seeing online. The millennials, the Gen Zs are coming out. They're trusting more people as to what they say versus what they do.
I just want to say I A/B tested a couple of our clients in Minnesota because I have a couple in the same area, and I said, let's see what this is like. But I just want to see. I want to see how good our clients are. Sometimes I'm like, I'm selling, but do I know that they're good? So, anyways, one guy got up on the roof, one guy did the drone, and my friend in the area was like, you know which one I didn't want. And I mean, he's my age. I mean, we expect some of that stuff, but he didn't feel like it was an adequate inspection because the guy didn't get on the roof. I mean, so there's it's like some of this stuff is coming, and maybe will be here, but then it's not for the next 8 years. It's not yet the expectation.
I think it's 2 years. I don't think it's 8.
Okay, it might be 2 or it might be 8, but I think that there is, like, sometimes you don't want to be on the very front end of every single trend.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guinea pig.
I mean,
Story of our life.
you think about door knocking. I mean, I've door knocked 20-something years, and I can tell you that as soon as that dumber ring thing came out, that changed. Imagine now with technology, how much that changed.
Mm-hmm.
You're closing it.
Yeah.
Just walking up to a door, push that button, you're like, oh my God, it's a ring. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still not.
Just now.
Because the interaction is, I mean, I knocked South Texas.
Yeah.
And they said, if you wear a polo, you're either IRS or police. Holy crap, they all have rings on their door. And as soon as they get you, oh, it's like, oh, shoot, here we go. You know, and so it's different.
All right, so I have a couple more things on this list, but I feel like we should probably get into audience questions sooner rather than later. But I'm gonna have Hunter do his take on this, and then we'll move into some questions. Okay, he's like, okay. We did cover it quite extensively. All right, so I did have questions about MRPs. Is that something anyone's interested in here? Managed repair programs.
How do you combat that?
How do you combat
I think
that?
with this model that we're doing here,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it comes with the insurance companies having their own roofing companies to come out to do the stuff. How do we go out there and do that? I've a little bit started to implement this to talk about lump sum payments that I'm not going to negotiate my price and try to make it about invoicing. And you have to, there's a lot of footwork ahead of time to deal with the customer on that. So, I mean, have you guys started to implement any of that?
Does anyone want to weigh in on that?
I can.
Dealing with the retail, you know, the retail part of it, where it's like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and mess around for 2 months with him saying he's not going to pay for this and that. This has to be on the roof.
You know, MRPs are just a testament to like how much friction there is in our industry between carriers and contractors, right? They wouldn't exist if there wasn't so much friction. And they're a Band-Aid. They're not a solution.
Well, it's the epitome of the race to the bottom. They basically found the bottom, and then they're like,
yeah, it could get a lot worse than MRPs though.
yeah.
I mean, you know, it's a tool. It's a tool in the bag, right? And I think you just, when you're up against one, you treat it just like any other, you know, company you're going up against, right? Sell your value, right? I mean, but at the same time, maybe you find a little value in the MRPs. I don't know, right? Like, to me, you get some people that say, "Oh, I use it as a leader to get into a neighborhood." Well, no, I'll never ever subscribe to that. If you're not making money, don't do it. Those guys are always going to be broke, right? You can't reinvest back into your company doing that. But you don't. That's not the right way to pay for leads. That's what Tim's for, right? Like, find a different way to get leads if that's your way. Now, if you're making money on it, you know, I guess then you could view it as the die by silver or die by lead, right? Like, get paid? Okay, cool. If it works, great, right? But they're a big pain in the ass. I do them, right? Some of them, but not everybody's a good partner. And they can be good partnerships to have. But you know, frankly, I don't see them as a permanent solution in the industry. So I guess, you know, look into them. If you like the partnership or and you can make sense out of the numbers and what have you, then, you know, maybe it's a good thing for you to join. I don't know, right? But don't be against it just because you're not in charge either, right? I mean, we all got egos, I know that. I mean, but view it as a business decision. It's data, right? What are the numbers? What do the numbers tell me? Follow the data. That's my advice.
I want to talk about it for just a quick sec because, you know, it's not, they don't necessarily have to always be the enemy. And this doesn't make me, I got a lot of hate on this one on one of Dimitri's podcasts, but we had a client that asked us to build an integration between them and an insurance company. It was a $6 million company, not a huge company. And build an integration with them and a smaller insurance company to basically build out an MRP program. And they agreed upon a service level agreement of when the roofs have to be inspected, when they have to be tarped, when they have to be repaired. They agreed upon set pricing for what things cost, and they built a partnership. At the end of the day, the insurance company just wanted to achieve more market share by being the best in this you know, storm impacted market at getting their houses fixed as quickly as possible. And they determined that it was better for their balance sheet if they were paying for less stuff getting damaged inside the house if they just got the damn thing repaired faster, and they were just looking for a contractor who was willing and able to deliver. Now, sure, when the storm runs through, do they sit back and go, damn, if we were fighting them, we could probably make a little more money if we just, you know, if we try to go for maximizing every claim, we can make more dough. But then when times are slow, they're like, geez, sure, I'm glad we got those 12 opportunities this week, you know? And they've grown into a $25 million company, and that's that, like, it's not all based on insurance, but it creates a lot of consistency. It allows them to know how many people they should hire, right? They have their own W-2 labor force, so then they know how many people that they need to have, and it's created the ability for them to start making long-term decisions. And the best businesses are built by people who think on the longest possible time horizons, and treating someone else who has a mutual relationship with your customer as an enemy all the time, 100%, just because they're an insurance company, I don't think is the smartest way to look at that problem.
Awesome. I'm gonna open it up here, so if you guys know what these guys are good at and their perspective and stuff like that. So thinking about that, what questions would you have for these guys? How can they help you now? This is the beauty. This is the beauty of a little bit smaller of an event. Is like we can all talk. I think your questions can be answered as good as these guys can answer in this moment. So who's got questions? Yes.
Benny, you mentioned earlier about buying, your gut company from your sub. My question is, I have that same thought with our stucco guys. I've got a great subcontractor, but the guy who owns it is 80-some years old, and all of his invoices are on pen and paper, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought about talking to him about, merging or some sort of buyout where I could help him with his operations, so you just focus on what he's good at. He's a true craftsman, not a businessman. And not that I'm the greatest businessman, but I feel like I could add a lot of value to his company if I just help him out a little bit. So my question was, what does that look like, partnering with other roofing companies, buying up subs companies, or partnering or whatever, and how does that benefit you?
Well, first I'd have to figure out like what that guy's vision is, for his company, how many employees he has and stuff like that. You have to figure out like for you, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just buy his assets and then pay his employees and give them all a $2 an hour raise and give him a percentage on the way out? There's all kinds of different ways to structure it. But the first is to get your relationship with him right first. Okay, either provide him a lot of extra value, maybe help him with his business. This is what I do. I help these young guys or old guys with their business from a business standpoint, because when they have questions about accounting and marketing, the two biggest questions that they always have, and then they come to my sales training, you just build the relationship with them. You show them how good it is over at your company, and then what their guys can be a part of, and then you want to take care of his guys, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to basically take care of his guys, because when he dies, who's going to take care of him? They're all going to just scatter probably, right? So that's why you just got to show him love, show his guys love, and then eventually just ask him, how it'll work and whether you own part of his company or maybe you take over and then he owns part of your company. So that way his family has something, and you can work out those deals. But you got to love the guy first and give him a lot of value.
Dustan Biegler cut off at the end of your talk. I appreciate you guys going a little rapid fire on these, because I'd like to cover as many as we can.
Is it fast enough or not?
That was perfect.
Okay. Just checking.
Who else has a question? Yes.
Back to my original, question about you trying to scale a company, other than like what you said, Dustin, about you focusing on your employees. But like, how do you take that huge leap from 3 million and growing? Is it processes through your CRM? Is it what is it that you guys did at Apple? Kind of get to that next level in business.
Can I ask what your revenue was last year?
2.5 million.
Okay, so right now I think all of your focus should be based on your team, because your team's what's going to build your sales, right? It's going to build the revenue, and I think that's what you need to focus on is right now revenue, right? One of the biggest motivators for a human is like survival. So always keep yourself in like that survival instinct. Stay hungry, if you will, because that's one of our strongest instincts, and you'll use that in your business to grow. I think when you get to, it's great if you have a ability to implement a lot of processes on the front end, because it could accelerate things, but if you know, if I had to choose one thing, right, at your point, I would probably say, hey, it's going to be on my team, you know, and so I would probably look at, okay, how's my recruiting, how's my training, and how's my retaining? Those three things, I don't care what size your company is, but those are the three things that make monsters. You know, all the other stuff, right, is like complementary to that. But if you can't do those three things, you know, you're, like I said earlier, I'm not the smartest guy, right? Like I find people that are better than me and smarter than me, and I convince them to get on my team, right? And that's, I'm not the guy to build Apple, right? It's really been a whole bunch of individuals inside, right? And so you approach the same way, like, who do I need, right? Just like he talked about partnerships, you know, they can be challenging. Marcus is my, you know, partner, and the funny thing is Marcus and I grew up from a very young age together, and we've known each other very well, been friends a long time. It was kind of funny about 4 or 5 years into our partnership, and one of our employees was like, oh yeah, God, we overheard this. Like, them guys, they go at it. And I was like, what? Like, I don't think we've ever had a fight in our life. And Mark was like, me neither. Like, what are you talking about? But the perception is that we went at it. And the reality is we're both very passionate about the same goal, right? But we have different opinions about how to get there. And I think if you're looking for a partner, and if you have a partner, value the guy that doesn't see it your way. You want that devil's advocate in your company. But it's important to probably calibrate with each other once in a while and go, look, bro, like, I know you're pissed off at me right now because, you know, we're seeing things different way and I'm arguing my point, right? But like, you and me are trying to accomplish the exact same thing, and, you know, may the best idea win. You know, don't care if it's your idea. Like, just go in there and hash it out, right? Somebody talked, I think it's Benny maybe, talked about whiteboards in your business or something. Man, dude, we call it the war room, right? You just go in there and start whiteboarding stuff and you get results. But to me, it's all about your team, because you'll never outperform a team. I don't care how smart you are, how good you are, how motivated you are, whatever, right? You can lead an excellent team, but your team's what's going to take you to the next level. So don't be afraid to bring somebody on that sees things differently than you or whatever, right? But just make sure that that person's not a hothead or what, you know, right? They have to be able to remember, hey, we're after the same mission or whatever, right? But nothing wrong with spirited conversations and passion. I mean, that's what it takes.
I feel like this is a really good question, probably for a lot of people, just like going from 3 to 10. Is that okay if we kind of simmer on this for a second and ask a few other people on the panel this question? I'm gonna have Hunter go, and then I'm gonna have Betty go.
Dustin already said all the good stuff. Yeah, no, I think just focusing on your team, something I tell business owners all the time that come to our retreats or reach out on social media and ask what they should focus on. I always say, and this doesn't apply for everyone. Some people, your sales reps are W-2. Some people they're 1099 like us. For us though, with that model, I always say focus on bringing in people that can make you money. They don't cost you any money because they're 1099. They don't cost you a salary. You're only being paid on performance. And then use that money they create to go out and build your staff, build your team of people that do cost you money. Your secretary, your office manager, your ops manager, your supplementer, whoever it is, your QC guy. But put a lot of focus on building out that team and doing some of the things I talked about earlier, equipping them and making sure that they can win. It really always boils down to your team and the people that you put in place around you, and being willing to not be the smartest guy in the room, like these guys mentioned earlier. I think that is super important. But I definitely agree with a lot of what Dustin said, especially on partnerships, and even if it's not a partnership, even if it's a C-level or management position, if they're challenging you, as long as it's with the intention of being the best, as long as it's with the intention of putting separation between you and your competition and being able to provide the best service, who cares whose idea it is? Just try to be the best.
So I just did it, like really fresh. 2019, I think we did 3.5 million, and we'll probably between 9 and 10 this year. So the biggest thing for me is figure out what your strengths are. I know you're the one that asked the question. What are you the best at in your business? Sales, marketing, operations?
Marketing, I would say.
You should be more sure of yourself.
Well,
so what are you the best at?
Marketing.
Okay, so next, sales and operations, what are you the best at there?
Probably sales.
Okay. So you need to focus on that side of the business. You got to find somebody to hyper focus on the other side of the business, because you're still going to have to work your ass off for like the next 2 years to get it up to 6 to 8, right? But you have to focus on like one side. They got to focus on the other side, because you can't be doing all of it, right? You can't be like just a little bit in each department, because that will just lead to a lot of pain in your life. So like Dustin said, you have to find somebody that kind of thinks opposite of you. Usually, sales and marketing guys think different than operations and finance guys, and that's a good thing, right? And you have to find somebody that you trust, right? And then you have to get on the same page with them, like he said as well, and have a common vision. But then you gotta go grow sales and marketing. He's got to grow operations. And you guys just do it together, and because you can't do it by yourself. I mean, you could, but it's gonna be really painful. You might not see your wife or your kids. You could like disturb a lot of relationships. You could end up divorced. You could end up owing your ex-wife $4,000 a month. I mean, I don't know. I'm not talking from experience.
All right, let's open it up again. Who else has a question they'd like to ask it?
I don't I speak by that.
That wasn't on Facebook Live, was it?
My whole deal is I see a lot of guys with roofing siding, windows, gutters. I recently opened up our own company, and I'm just focusing on the roofing and the gutters.
Smart man.
Smart.
On a rare occasion, I might throw in a siding or a fascia or whatever it may be. I mean, your guys' opinions on that. I always tell the homeowners, because I know I've lost jobs with this, but I really don't care, because I want an experience from start to finish with that homeowner that they are raving about us. And I think the more hands that you tie into it, that you bring into it, and you're holding up because of fascia or windows or whatever it may be, then it just takes that experience away. As where, we can sign them up, get the roof and the gutters on within a week, and they're like, holy cow, those guys are awesome. I was just wondering your guys' experiences and opinions on that.
I think you're doing the right thing. For anybody else in the room who's maybe venturing into the other way, I've built systems for both types of companies, and by and large, the companies that simplify and focus, it's way easier, it's way cheaper for me, right, to build it, and they're way more successful, because you're now trying to have 5 tool baseball players in 5 different sports, and it's immensely complicated. And I would say stick with what you're doing, stick with your plan. You see a lot of guys that go, yeah, but if we do this and this and this and maximize the claim, we'll get a $100,000 claim. And it's just like, you just now have a baby that you have to raise all the way through to being a teenager. You could just get into the roof and be done. And I know it might feel like you're not serving your customers when you do that, or it might not be possible. I have a client who does this, and I look at the amount of stress that it creates and the lack of growth that it causes, because he's just constantly trying to do 5 different services. And I mean, all the power to him. If he figures it out, he'll take a $30 million company, make it a $150 million company, if he figures it out. But that's a big gamble.
Can I ask what market you're in?
A couple hours west.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, number one, I'm in the same market, right? So I'm going to tell you that this has been a hot, it's been a hotly debated topic in our business for years. right? And it was end of 2015. I kind of used the data, right? And I was like, look, here's the jobs where we did siding and windows and gutters and roof. Here's the jobs we did roof. And over here we got 5-star reviews. Over here we're like, more like 2.5, right? It's not cool. And not only that, but the complexity that it causes within your company. And in this market, the subs that are available to do some of these other trades don't exist. Now, if you go to a different market, Minneapolis, and the subcontractor base is there for siding or windows or whatever, it could be a totally different story, right? But when you don't have the right resources to do it in the same way that you work a lot of the other side of your business, it causes a lot of headache. And I can tell you in the insurance business, a lot of the times we have directional hail, right? So you're talking about, oh my gosh, we've got this 3 squares of vinyl siding that we've got to replace. Oh, by the way, the insurance company is going to fight you tooth and nail because it doesn't match. The homeowner's not going to be happy. You're the guy stuck between the rock and the hard spot. The homeowner's pissed at you. The insurance company says that you're trying to cheat us, right? And all you did is like this little tiny thing, but you put, I had to go over there. I had to get piece siding off the wall. There's risk associated with doing that, by the way. And then you send it to ITEL or whatever. You do all this. By the time you even find out what the siding is, you could have, the same effort, you could have done a roof, right? All the way through. Yeah. And you're talking about this little sliver of work you're going to do that, So I will say that when we eliminated siding, we've never eliminated it. We've tried like hell. Okay. I'll tell you, I told our sales team, if you sell siding, you're getting reverse commission. Okay? So we're going to charge you to do siding. Okay? We've gone to that extreme. Because they will still sell it, right? I had to, the roof, this thing. I get it. Sometimes customers want it all, right? And hey, I want everybody to win, but we can only handle so much too. So it really cut back the amount we do, but we grew tremendously by cutting that.
And I know the direction we're going to go. It's myself and one other guy, and we're going to cross 4 million the first year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's just doing roof and gutters. And I know there's another company in the market that they're killing it too, and there's signs everywhere. And they're punching signs in yards. But I know they're just taking and put a sign in, but they're promising the whole kit and caboodle. And when I'm asked that, I said, I want your experience from start to finish to be, Blue Roofing is going to be the best you've ever dealt with. If I did all this project, we'll be talking next year, and the project won't be done. I said I don't want that for you.
We may have time for 1 or 2 more questions here, so I'm just gonna, if you guys don't mind, rapid fire. We got it in us.
What's your guys' pay structure as far as the office manager, assistant, project manager? Do you guys reward them based off of sales, production? How does that work out for you guys?
I'm gonna go to different people for these, so I'm gonna.
So I have a bunch of people in my office. They range anywhere from $40,000 a year for receptionist to I think one girl's making $65,000 a year. Some of them get office people. Sometimes they'll get net profit bonus because it's on the whole company. People and project managers. The guys out in the field, they get an hourly rate, but then they get gross profit bonus off the gross profit for the whole operations team, not just their jobs, because we're trying to build a team, because a lot of times they're bouncing around. So I don't know if that helps. Project managers out in the field usually anywhere from $25 to $30 an hour, plus overtime.
Right.
Yeah, so for us, pretty similar, $40,000 to $80,000 salaries, anywhere from secretary, office manager, ops manager. And with the sales reps, we do an 8-12 split, 8% if we give them the lead, 12% if they go out there and get the lead. We do have a team lead program just to really promote leadership and challenge them to step up and grow a team, recruit people into the business. And we give them a point on any sales from someone that they recruit and they manage, they lead, but we're real strict about that. You can't recruit somebody, then they start crushing it, you're not answering the questions, then they're calling me, you're calling one of the other guys, and you got to handle it. You got to lead them. You got to be their team lead to take part in that. And then our branch managers, yeah, it's just based off of performance and net.
Awesome. Let's get one more, and then we're gonna. I think we're gonna take a really short break. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then Dustin's gonna speak.
What do you guys think is the best way to balance like staff size being in the seasonal environment where the winters you might have guys just sitting around on hands not doing anything, and in the summers you feel understaffed?
I just want to say a real quick thing.
Yes.
Thank God you don't live in Canada.
Pittsburgh's pretty bad. Sales guys are always hunting through the winter. It's not a big issue, but our operations guys, a lot of them are used to not working in the winter. But, you know, there's a couple guys we have on salary, some of our higher level employees in the ops side, which makes it challenging, but everybody knows how to do repairs in my company. And at the end of the day, it's really important, right? So all my guys babysitting crews during the summer and the springs, like those guys have been washing roofing, they're practicing roofing, they're practicing flashing chimneys, they're practicing putting pipe boots in, turning those guys into repairs. And now that the company's bigger, and we actually have a team of people that can like onboard like new divisions like siding and solar, we're looking into doing blown-in insulation, like attic insulation stuff like this winter. Maybe buying a couple houses that are kind of rehab just to kind of, because we can do the exteriors in the winter since it's our house, nobody cares. So those are like little things that you can do. But it is hard once you get bigger. It's easy when you're small. 2, 3, 4, 5 million, you can get away with it. But this like $10 million vortex that I'm in right now with the overhead that I got, I'm a little nervous.
I'll take that, I guess. I'll say something. The smallest thing I'd add is, you know, don't look at the slow season as the slow season. Don't let that mindset get in people's head that we call the grow season. Because that's when you can go out there and do the activities that are going to drive your relationships, right? Like you can do a ton of work when it's snowing or whatever, right?
Training.
So do think about it that way. But, you know, little plug here. The other thing that I think about, and this is a big part of consolidation, right, is, you know, we all, if you're in a hail market, whether it's summer or winter, it might hail this year and it might not, right? So we're on a roller coaster all the time. Our demand is up here or it's down here, right? And when it's up here, we don't have enough people. When it's down here, we got too many people, right? And so that's part of the beauty of consolidation, right? It didn't hail much in Nebraska last year, right? We had the hurricane and Hurricane Ida. You know, you take 30% of your sales force, let's just say, hypothetically, every time is like young guys that are single that want like to make a bunch of money and they're willing to travel, right? And then you've got like maybe 70% of guys that are like family, got wives, children, whatever lives, they don't want to move around. Well, if you can move 30% of the people out of your market and send them down to the hurricane, let's just say, because you have a place, an office there that already exists and they can go in there and be ultra successful for set amount of time, and now you're of the leads that are coming into your company, right? They're getting distributed over a smaller group of people, which allows the people that are there to be more successful. So as you diversify geographies, you start solving that problem a little bit. Okay, so that's all I'll add.
All right. Sorry. As we round it out here, I got 2 things. Number 1. Jen, TJ, Tim, vendors, speakers, let's give them a round of applause. They crushed